Okay, so whenever I draw a closed mouth smile, I always start by drawing where the two lips come together. And the line right in here is going to just mimic the Cupid's bow just a little bit. And then on his, he kind of has like the outer edges kind of come up just a little bit. So I would try to draw yours the same size as the photo that you're looking at on your computer. So I'm going to try to draw it the same size as this picture I'm seeing here. So I'm just drawing that line where the two lips come together. I'm going to make it a little bit darker just so you can see it better. But remember that you want to be drawing lightly so that your lines can be erased and so things don't look outlined in the end. Okay, next we're going to draw where we think the top lip will end. So basically you're going to draw where that the little dip in his Cupid's bow is. So they're not like huge lips, but they're also not tiny. I'd say they're like medium-sized lips. So it shouldn't be super big, but not super small. Then we're going to draw the line to determine where the bottom of his bottom lip is. Now, I would say generally his top and bottom lip are about the same size. Obviously, we're going to make this line a little bit lower than we made that upper line just because where his Cupid's bow dips in, it is smaller than this distance on that bottom lip. Okay, so then once you have determined the size of the top and bottom lip, then you can go ahead and draw the lips out. I always start with the top lip, but it's really up to you. Really try to look at that picture and follow the shape of his lips. And then after you draw it, look at the picture again and look at, okay, where do I need to make adjustments? I don't really like how I drew that bottom lip, so I'm going to adjust. But I drew it light enough to where now that I'm erasing it, it's going away. It's not visible. So double check the shape of yours. Do you have the shape of the Cupid's bow down? Do you have the whole top lip? Is it the curve correct? Is the curve of the bottom lip correct? Do the size of the two lips in proportion, do they look the right size? Okay, so once you think you've got those lips down, then we're going to start adding value. Now the top lip is always darker or generally darker than the bottom lip because of the angle that it's at. It has more of a shadow cast on it. So I always start by adding value to the top lip. So it's fairly dark, not super dark, but fairly dark. And then use your Q-tip and blend that out. So once you've added that value, that should really get rid of that outline that you had at the top of the lip. If it didn't, then that means that you pressed way too hard when you were drawing the lips. And you probably need to go back in and erase that line to lighten it. Okay, now I'm going to add just a little bit more of a darker value on this underside of his top lip, just because it is a little bit darker down in there. And that's gonna help it really look more rounded. So I added a little bit more darker value in there. Just real gently blend that out. Okay, the other thing I'm gonna do is make that line, the middle line, dark again. Darken that, just because I don't wanna lose it when I start to add value for the bottom lip. We will go back in with charcoal at the end on that line, but for now, just darken it with your pencil so you don't lose it. Okay, and then we're gonna do the bottom lip. So the bottom lip is not as dark. So press lighter on your pencil. You still wanna get an all over light gray. And again, by adding this gray, it should eliminate the outline of the bottom lip. So, because Patrick Mahomes' lips are not outlined in lip liner, so we don't want it to look like that. Okay, once you've blended that out, you can even use that value you have on your Q-tip. Start to get some of that on the skin surrounding. We are gonna add some value under that bottom lip because he's got a pretty heavy shadow under there. And that's what's gonna really make it look like that bottom lip is round. But let's go ahead and get some skin tone all the way around. Try to make it nice and smooth. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back in and start to add that shadow that's underneath that bottom lip. And this shadow should be darker than his bottom lip itself. So you shouldn't lose that edge because you're gonna make it darker. So you should still be able to see his lip separate from his skin. Okay, and then I'm gonna add just a little bit more dark value towards the center part of his bottom lip, just to help accentuate that roundness. Being careful not to lose that center line. All right, now I'm gonna use my charcoal and start to really get some of those darker values. So I'm gonna first go in and get that center line dark. And then he also kind of has like, it kind of like thickens out a little bit on the outer edges of that line. So I'm gonna kind of make them a little bit more bold down the outer edges. And then you can even make it so you're kind of gonna bring a little bit of that darker value onto the bottom of that top lip because it's fairly dark. Maybe bring some of that dark value under that bottom lip. We just really want to start building up that contrast because that's, again, what's gonna make it really pop. Sometimes if you feel like you made it too dark, you can just use like a clean blending tool, like a tissue, and kind of rub off some of that dark value. Like I made it a little too dark on that left side, but I don't want to erase it. So I'm just using a clean part of a Kleenex here and picking up some of that value. So just keep looking at where do you need to darken it. I'm gonna darken the top, or the top of the bottom lip just a bit with my charcoal. And then I'm gonna make that center line again so I don't lose it. Okay, now we need to make some more detail, like the wrinkles that we see in his lip. So that's just because when you smile, your skin stretches out, and then when you're not smiling, when your skin's relaxed, it just comes back together. So we want to get some of those little wrinkles in there. So basically we're just going to draw some lines. You kind of want to vary the size and the length of them. And you also want them to kind of follow the curve of his lip. So try to follow each line that you see on that picture and mimic it in your drawing. You want to try to keep it kind of consistent. There are quite a few of them. And then what I do is kind of blend it out just to kind of make it look a little bit more subtle and natural, because they're visible but they're not like super visible, and he only has them on his bottom lip. And then the other thing we need to do is get some of those lighter areas in there. So there's for sure some lighter area in that center part of his bottom lip, so I'm going to go back in with my eraser and try to follow those shapes that I'm seeing in there where it's lighter, being careful not to erase the lines I just made. It's kind of like light on the side, like the outsides of each of those lines. He also, and most people also normally have like a little bit of a reflection towards the top, like very top outer edge of their lip, because it just kind of sticks out more, and so light kind of reflects off that. So you might kind of lighten that just a smidge, and that'll kind of help it make it look like it's popping out there. And then you might kind of, ooh, that's dark. Blend that out. Make sure you don't have too dark of a value already on your Q-tip. Okay, and since we are doing Patrick Mahomes, and to help this not look like such girly lips, we can go ahead and do a little bit of that stubble that he's got. You don't really see a lot of definition on it, especially in this picture. It's not like the greatest quality picture. But it's basically just a bunch of lines. But we're gonna blend this out and make it so it's not like a bunch of lines visible. Cause like, especially on that right side, you can't really see the lines individually or anything. And he doesn't have like a super thick little mustache or anything. It's some stubble right there, so keep that in mind. He's kind of got a little bit of a bare spot right there too. Oh, that's okay, Jessica. Did you get kicked out again? Okay. I just recorded myself, so I'll put this on there.